Should be live. Good afternoon. See where I left this yesterday. Let's type a chat message. People who will join us. Because the title of the stream is not clear. Doesn't reveal what we are. Might change, of course, over the course of a few hours, but I think today we'll work on scoping tools. I think that is as clear as it is. So last night I did select colors, select output. It's creating a bunch of materials. This the list of items in the inspector may scare you, but Godot only saves the differences. Whatever is by default selected here is not registered in the save file. And even better, this save file is a resource. So if you look at the source code of this file, you're going to see it's a bunch of text. And it's like something like this. So it's a special material, and we are only interested in changing albedo. Given a list of hexadecimal values, we are creating all these materials. So this interface here may change in the future to create variations of colors. By that I mean this. So this is the albedo color, but this surface doesn't have any how metallic it is. We may use this surface to we may use this color to depict a surface that is like concrete or ceramic, depending on how metallic or rough it's supposed to look. Shiny. The same albedo color could be used for this. So naturally we'll have to make use of this albedo. But if possible, I would like to follow predefined color set. This was, I think, last topic. I believe I picked a more or less garden-friendly color set. We have a few odd colors for marking and tools and storage, that, but it's mostly green and earth colors. That so we have a few dark ones, mostly green here. Things like that. Beauty of it is, if we wipe this list, we can always start from scratch, and then you just use your input color list and output folder, and then so we also did work on file merger, more specifically JSON merger. This is taking 3 different JSON files. It's using the file name, not the file extension. It is putting them into the same dictionary and exporting them single JSON. Here where you type the file. So basic merges all those. Keeps the object structure. Doesn't add them as an array, but finds the contents of each file as separate object. There's not that much difference between object or like the JSON object. There's no such thing. So you know what I mean. The dictionary in GD script versus JSON structure. So in other words, it's a key value assignment. So this is done. So then the other two big boys, Asset Factory and Blender Importer. I think Asset Factory is the easiest we can work. This is a more ambitious, possibly a minefield, which actually stopped us from doing, which actually led us to doing this work in functionality for these existed somewhere else. But it makes much more sense to put functionality as part of Godot instead of running it kind of in and out. So now that I have data cruncher, which actually is turning, I think I could delete this file. Hold tools spot. This is the no longer purpose. Thank you. Bye. Um, this export consolidator is because our, yeah, I'm just gonna briefly talk about this to warm up. Let me get a pepper plant. Um, I want to be able to select all the leaves and assign them to a group. Now, to a certain extent, do it with those scene filter here. When I type leaf, since leaves are the most nested, they are the lowest in the tree. To show them, Leaf Godot is also offering you its parent. So to see the leaf, the stem is included in the type stem. I won't see the leaves. So this is actually okay. It's kind of filtering until you hit the most, what was that word? Kind of distant child, final node. So, because there are two reasons why we need a tool to actually assign them. Well, one is like for the sake of finding things and assigning them. One other way around. We need to select those while we are playing the game. We are going to run the script. Just fetch all the leaves that are part of a certain group. While the player is tending to their garden, maybe it will be winter condition at some point. So maybe there will be plants out there and they actually have to look like they're actually going into the dying stage. So we should be able to hit a group, select all the necessary bits, and change it. Maybe fruit will die, so we just need to select just the fruit part. We are going to put this in the group. This actually has to be so our code has to know which one of these to select, but uh, you shouldn't really select these things by their node names. This is going to be a variable pepper plant and beans plant. because 3D designers may choose different uh, different naming convention, mislabel things. You should tag them. So groups in Godot is the equivalent of tags in Unity. So you just have to select everything that belongs to it. Which brings us back to what we are trying to do here. So we gotta find a very easy way to. So that's going to be the importer's job. Now, um, at some point, like after we import a model, um, at some point it turns into scene in Godot. This is the model. If you double click this, it's going to ask you if you want this scene. And so for now, this folder structure is the beans GLB is saved as beans SCN in assets. I think there's no reason why I'm keeping model scenes in a separate folder. I think they could just sit next to. Um, Either way, this is just the model scene itself. This has no game logic whatsoever. The game logic is going to be added in the structure that we were working on yesterday. Similarly, just like beans, trellis model. Trellis model has trellis scene. But like I said, this scene is not the game object scene. There is actually a separate folder. Would you believe it? It's called prefabs. Uh, Um, when you open this actually has game logic. So this trellis you see here is that model scene that I talked about. It's just contextual. Everything here. That's the standard importer's job. But then once you're finished with this, then okay. This is going to be imported as a scene game logic. So this actually has scripts running on it, stuff. Because the model itself doesn't have, for example, um, possible spots to grow things boxed. So asset factory's job is basically going to be creating this automatically, injecting the model we want or the model scene we want into here. Maybe choosing the number of possible growing spots so it all these for us. And then we are going to manually put the collision shape according to the model scene. Then this will be saved and this will be this game. Because the naming convention might be a bit odd for Godot developers. Game objects, prefabs, models. Um, it is usually grouped under one word in Godot, scene. Sure, there's a model file, but pretty much everything you create is a scene. I like the simplicity because that scene naming convention reminds me of Flash days. Everything is a movie clip, a NES movie clip sort of thing, which used to be a problem with Unity when it didn't have nested previews. So that took a decade. That kind of thing existed for a long time. So you could compose scenes each other. So that's why it's kind of a misnomer to label things prefabs. Technically, it's a scene, but we are trying to create abstractions. Because a scene may also give this idea that you are doing level design. This is a scene technically, but it's actually a game from a different perspective. Okay, enough with the basics explanation. I think we can get started. So this work is also done to a certain extent. Let me clear all. Do I want to save it? Sure. Um, First of all, it's asset, and I don't want to delete everything here because some assets to work off of. But once the Blender imported thing will be done, we will uh, clean up. So for now, what I can do is shamelessly take everything in that and drop them in. Now we have similarly named files. Assets folder is, and because some of our scripts are depending on its path, that will give expected. Um, First thing first, I'm gonna go into my script for Godot. I think I may also change this to urban tools. Let me disable this because this started off as a separate project, but I think we are in it. The fact that this is actually in here makes it already have some studio code. Let's open. Now this should actually balance for perfect. Let's do the renaming Godot. It's code. We could call this urban farm. Some of these tools may be made public, that material and JSON merge. That's a separate. This path now really cool plugins does it. Yeah, urban farm. Material creator, automatic node assignment, something like that. Could write a better version now. Infinite number of versions. Just being fine. Customized here. I think this has to be registered. It recognizes the plugins. Now we are going to put or I enable. This is the plugin entry point. This is where we are writing the rules, so this should also be. This is also not. It's called control. When I have no scene open, it doesn't say. script. Control. Let's leave it for. Let's leave it as control. Not the most descriptive name. Let's focus. So when you do this, urban farmer, brilliant. What else? Let's close all the scripts. Let's turn on the control node. This JSON merge is working. This should seem just like Material Maker. Done. Done. On to the asset factory. Now, asset factory, the way it works in the current version, we have an interactive factory. See how familiar this looks? This actually has changed. Where is Trellis? Trellis is not a scene, it's a model. You know. But I made that. Oh, okay. Sorry, I put everything on. Never mind. Dumb conversation. So this is the most finished version. The baseline was here. Representation of this is basically the factory. We are trying to create from this something like we're going to put the correct present, correct number. This is already working from the inspector. So I expose the business logic to the inspector. We're going to take this work from here, put it in. Because when you bind it to script, everything is handled through script variables. Like this is working beautifully, but then this has to run as a tool, which is okay. Problem though, you are mixing the game logic with the business of creating the asset. So this should never run when the game is running. This script is attached, it's always going to. So, and I don't want to do things sort of, let's say if I'm going to create a Trellis game object, I'm going to be doing the work here. Equipment, structures, because I screwed out the paths. Section models now. Okay, here comes Trellis. Done. Because we did this. But now I have to remove the script only to bind the proper game logic. Save this. If I have to make any change, sort of prefab creation, remove the game script, put the factory script back on, make my changes on the right hand side. So this is going to be productive too. So we should expose these here so that the game logic is never changed. Because this is not game logic. It took some frustration to make this all conditional on each other. Equipment is only listing tools and structures. Planting is listing 3 types of, and then each category has its own list. Because otherwise there were going to be at least a dozen drop downs here. The goal is to get to the most bottom, the model. That should be filtered based on this, which is filtered. We may have different filtering, so we'll try to replicate this. The way we did this, let's remember that. So this is actually creating one of these key and values. That's not important for now. So if it's equipment, then we only show the equipment category. Which is whatever is assigned tools and structures. But then if tools is selected, then we bind the tools here to the, but if structures is listed, then into the model values we only want to list structure. So this is this, and of course when you make changes, this is where you do setting. Like when you go to planting, you're essentially choosing the first category in the plant, and then the first model that belongs to that category. Say planting, this says to vegetables, first item, which is the first. So this part is handling that. So there's like fallback. And this is simply where you get the model type category, and creating items in the tree is this, but you gotta kind of know the values from right hand side, and that's really all there is. Now, I'm not 100% sure we will actually have this exact structure, but I think we will have some kind of hidden. Thinking to organize it. Now I could um, make something like this too. Just like we are selecting a color file, I could select the model we want to import here, but that's still a manual task. But besides, sucking up the manual labor cost, the way we are going to track uh, game objects in the code, we say eggplant, our game script is going to use some for plants different things, that sort of thing. But why can't we use that to find the asset? Because they are going to be maps in relation anyway. Which is actually basically this list here. This is essentially a simplified version of this bad boy. Vegetables, here, herbs, mushrooms. See this? Vegetables, herbs, mushrooms. This is it. So this was a great prototype. I think it's time I this to the next level and then read these, build this JSON file. So a bit more advanced. That kind of won't know what is what though. Because here it's kind of clear to see, right? It makes sense that vegetable is like full sense structure. That model type text, I'll label it. Then there's the conversation about the plant varieties. If tomato has 3 varieties, one will have its own model. In the ultimate, the demo, we can still get away with just, but essentially, let's find the tomatoes. When we choose tomato right now, it's on the same model. This should also be broken. But the problem is, you won't have that kind of breakdown structures. Or will you? I think we might, because when we set of equipment structures, stone tiles, should have multiple stone tiles. You already have. And if you have only one, that becomes its own variety. We need a port level here, which is going to be variety. I just have to pick a much more friendly development. Because already model type behaves like it's. I'm choosing model here. Category and model type should. Yeah. What is the category? What's the model type? Structure. What's the model called frame? How many called frame models do you? If this was tomato, you would have 3 different. Done. Okay. That's that. So we are going to have 4 levels. Model type and okay. So let me kind of write that somewhere. So this will have script. Go up. Scripts asset factory. Let's keep it asset factory. And then I will label the prefabs as assets. Then assets folder will no longer have the model exports. Those are kept in model. That's it. Scripts done. Write some comment for drop downs. Category. I'm gonna go into the multi-line comments. Categories will be equipment, model type. For equipment, it's going to be structure, model, stone tile. We could keep it stone tile or tile style. Okay, whatever that is. We will also have the number of the reason why I'm doing all this work is because if I have to create hundreds of objects, it's going to help. But if I have an abstract way of doing it, and if we change the whole structure, there has to be some kind of other thing initiated in. What needs to be initiated in what kind of object? Those rules can be written in a JSON file. We could kind of auto trigger this instead of manually choosing this. Whatever we are going to do could be attached to a script, or we could actually have some automate button. Like just do all this. Goal is always to make it more and more abstract. Don't have ready. Enter. Also need exit tree. You're not gonna give me that until. So I need to be my final data structure is finalized. So in this current version, should I just ask for a JSON file so they it, or I think I was kind of doing slight deviation. this one. I have not created a should be creating a tools and structures files. I think I'll duplicate it from tools. You are it. Let's look at the tool list. Nope, wrong folder. We have trouble tools. Trouble. We keep it single case. Just pick a trouble. You buy multiple, that's your own. Because we could always pluralize in it. We could say it in the whatever you are. Take. Let me pull this aside so that we. Their description is kind of weird. This should actually turn into discussing. Technically, trouble is a. Should actually have style names and names. You are going to. Again, these names will matter only when we are pulling the model. This is sort of. This is going to be the displayed name to the player. Need an ID name. It. Okay. Because for the tomato, we have names with space in it too. How do we export that from Blender? That is that fourth tab, Blender importer. Thank you. Yeah, I think I need an ID system. Not too concerned about the performance, but all these models don't have, or neither one of these models, level of detail. But whatever polygons this has, same number of polygons. Naturally, when you zoom out, you're trying to render shitload of polygons. So, for example, this thing here, you don't really get to see this slanted surface at this level, do you? That actually could be just flat top. You don't see it even here. Even here, it's questionable, more or less. Sure, you may want to keep this detail here because it's the light reflection, right? Otherwise, if it was flat. So these models could also have their level of detail when you export from Blender. So if you come up with a naming command, you know the ID of the model, you just put a dash and the LOD12 picture, swap it. So I don't need to ID the level of details yet, but if I have an ID system, I could export the level of detail models expecting their IDs. So I think I should come up with some kind of something, something four letter four letter designate. Either have structure or rules. Those are, I think, three letters is more. Here, either we go with the full name or we could go with a. I think I'll type this. Wait. Variety is art. Should that be in text page? For tomato, we have John, John Plum, John Plum, Italian paste, and Pony best something. And an ID system will be useless if someone actually injects an item in between and the whole IDs are screwed up. Somewhat alphabetically. So if we are going with a name-based thing, it should never be turned into structure after the. And for stone tile, you have the brick style stone tile, you have the flat top, you have one with the crisscross sort of holy bits. How do you even label those? It's goofy name. You know, we could do the sorting in. Why would you want to sort it on the fly? It's expensive, sort of. And there might be mods in it, injected. Okay, I think this is where I'm gonna go with a decimal system at the expense of suffering from human errors. Fucking human. Model identification system. It's MIS. Oh, it thinks I'm escaping something. Okay, because if you need to escape it, it actually has to be like this. So an example. This is for equipment. So I need possibly a different file where I'm keeping a list of this. Let's write it here. This is the equipment. Planting should be planting. Okay, this is for X's. For model types, go with structure, str, structure. We have tools. I think we'll go with single case all the time. Okay, story is some kind of vegetable kit. Yes, there's a human friend in star. Plural. Yay, we are looking at vegetable. Whatever. But just because it has tool pluralized in the label, I should probably not, because this is as if S is part of the main word, whereas S is just the plural case here. So I think this is the tool. Okay, we have structure and tool. Under planting, we have vegetable. Herbs, herb, mushroom, mush, herb, martin. And here are your models. Okay, and they will be basically just eggplant, bean, whatever, they are part of this. And then their varieties, whatever variety you have under eggplant or stone tile here. Structure, stone tile, if there was, it would be index based. So for example, a diamond, old, stone file is an equipment. It's a structure. It's on file, and it's going to be this. Let's be on the safe side. Maybe hundreds of varieties on one category. I doubt it, but never say never. That. So when we export our stuff from Blender, this is the part that's going to it's still human readable. We still see that it's a stone tile. We kind of understand it's a structure. It belongs to equipment. It's fine. Because right now they are nondescript. Horribly named anyway. Okay. Taking better shape. Taking a better shape by the minute. Just gonna stretch my legs and come back. No need to put the stream on break. I'm around, just stretching. This is important because of different reasons. The way we read the values, stuff is changed. There was actually some struggle here. But the way we don't do this part, nothing here it was displayed. This part was frustrating because you could expose you could make the values look like drop down, except the list was empty. Once you put this, then this was creating an array because this property is an array and you are joining them, the values, which put as many items as possible. So naturally, when you choose something, which is happening here, and because it's index based, are you actually getting, say, 0 equals equipment, 1 equals planting, or are you trying to get the string itself? That's where this whole thing is done. Now that may work a bit differently in here. Because the reason why I'm discussing this is because of normally when you export an integer to the interface, okay, like this, Godot assumes that, okay, since it's an integer, it actually puts a number spinner here. It doesn't just put a input box where you are manually typing things. Sure, you could manually type it, but you could increase it and decrease it. So when you put an array structure, the inspector, then it offers you a way to click the array to see the contents of the array. So when it's a different kind of array, you may want to see it as a drop-down list. So just because your data is the same way doesn't mean you're always going to see it the same way. We could render this as an array inspector, so when you click, it actually expands it instead of having this drop-down. So to make it look like this is the work you have. So it actually displays like an enumerated. Which means the way your data structure works in this interface may not be the same when it works here, and I'll tell you the reason why. When you create, let's actually do, now we are seeing the asset factory, it's empty. There's a drop-down control in the context of game. It was called item. Which one was the drop-down list? So no, that was button, but with a list. Where's the button? It's a, let's see, open everything, look up. Different, not separate. Base button, button, option button, or menu button. This is the one. Yes, provide selectable options. Okay. When you do create this, and you have items, you have this stuff. Okay. Can we actually render this scene by itself? We can. So this is what I'm talking about. You see item 0, item 1. Those labels could change. But whatever, however. Okay. Whatever and however. When you select them though, you are not selecting the text, you are selecting the index number. Sure, you could read the value and send it somewhere. That's what you. But this data structure versus this data structure is different. The rendering may look the same, but deep down the way they work might be different. So most likely, not only do I not have to do this, this part, I will still have conditionals, but also where I'm reading the data, it won't be, will be similar but a bit different. And we would like to fill these items dynamically. Okay. And this is going to happen because I'm multiple binding. Let's create a vertical box. Okay. Actually, even better, we should actually create a grid. I will call it representation for now. This is going to have a bunch of option buttons. It's going to have category options. It's going to have label. Okay. This label is going to be for category. It's going to be like this, and it's going to have 2 columns. This text is gonna change because this is empty, so by default it did. And we no icon whatsoever. Because what I'm trying to do when I was presenting you this system, look at this ID. This ID is not matching the index number. What I would like to do is this: show equipment and planting, but then their IDs will be basically matched to PQP and PLN, so that I could actually get the abbreviation from the whichever item that we are going to select. I could map the text to one of these, and then in the next category map it to one of these. And then if I'm seeing stone tile as like S capital, T capital, and space in between, the data representation underneath should be this, so that I can find the comments. That is going to be the final final name. Google mode is on. That's, I think, part of that. Okay, I think this is as good as it can. Let's duplicate this. This is what options exact? Category. I think instead of calling model type, is redundancy. Type options. What's the type of yeah, let's call it model type option. Variety. Okay. User grid. Category. Actually, that's not type, that's model. Why, what am I doing? Model option. We've already done the model. Okay, is that fine? It says to be filled in. dynamically. On to the difficult parts. Okay, let me clean up my data. That's where we were, and we start to discuss this whole ID business. I am in tools. Pots is not a tool. Pots is a structure. Bag of dirt. Bag of dirt is a tool. Okay, based on the ID discussion we are having, I think these should be the IDs now, because these names become the key, not the text representation. Let's look at our structure. This is now becoming more like, so here's vegetable says VGT in so right. So then stone tile or uh, stone tile being under structure, but say if tomato is under VGT, this is acting more like an ID. This is going to be lowercase, maybe without space, which means we can no longer do it like, because I've been depending on this as its label and ID, but it's not as simple as space is okay. We could still leave it like that. Like, harmless. Okay, still even readable. Let's not rock the boat. Because we know this works. Because I don't want to create another ID equals sort of name and some items and then this array binding to go with what you have. Which means you have a bag of dirt. Okay. It has to match this. But even if this can all be done later too, this is to satisfy for now. Because you don't see what I'm doing. You can actually fix these, but all we need to do right now is to render the proper categories, which is going to be part of tools and structures. Because if this is not existing, that's a future problem. We can't do that. These models don't exist in the disk yet. That's fine. So let's look at the modelistic. If we are going to duplicate it, let's duplicate it from bag of dirt, beans, birdhouse. Birdhouse is structure. I think bucket is a tool. Bucket. Old frame is structure. Compose file, the tool, but it's also structure. It's a structure. Compo compose unit is a structure. You create compose file in, and compose file is a weird topic right now. It's the most dynamic unit in the game. I'm not even sure if we could actually have a pre-rendered model for it. Faucet. Faucet is going to be a structure. Place it somewhere. Pose. Pose is a tool. Okay. A lot of plants. Pergola. Pergola is a structure. You know what I should probably do from tools? Copy. I'm going over the list. I mean, rename structure. And because I'm trying to keep everything singular, I should also be labeling these files singular, because this herb is now going to match this herb ID, because everything will be part of the same JSON. Pots. Pots is a structure, just like a raised bed. The pot. Birdhouse. Structure. Bucket. We've done it. Cold frame. It's a structure. Compost. Faucet is a structure. We've done all that. Pergola is a structure. That's when we decide to create this. Rain barrel is definitely a structure. However, the way I'm intending rain barrel is, but from the player's perspective, structure they're using in, they don't treat it like it. Tool is more like a trowel or a shovel. Bucket. Rain barrel is structural unit. Raised bed, definitely structure. Also help. Rake, shovel, baiting fork, baiting fork, starter kit. The tool you get to start your. It's kind of a I version of the game. Sure, do it. non-tile. It is a structure. I think I made a big mistake. Should have been IDing this before I duplicate. Going to be the first bag of dirt. Because if the order is changing, that order is changing based on the index in the array. When I choose it in the Godot interface, trying to find that ID, but if the wrong model is exported from Blender, mismatching the IDs, um, that's the problem with the numberings. That's the only weak point there. ID system there, the decimal stuff. Of course, the potential human problem is if we have a column here and we have like 1, 2, 3. If you want to add a new model, just mark it 4. If you duplicate the row, only to change the name here, this column will be here. You just change the name and the IDs are the same. Which also means if this game will have modes, how will other people bring in their models? Because if they go all the way down to this level, only to be fucked by that. I'm thinking of something crazy. Because this name, if it's tomato, it's the variety. In this case, it may just be bag of dirt. But what if this name is unique? And we kind of want to keep unique names here. Anyway, uniqueness of this name, create a what is that hash in Excel or Google spreadsheet. Create a hash out of this, then makes it unique, and that is the as long as Blender exports file following this naming code, which is eqp str bag of dirt dash the hash code that is unique. And if we ever make this game modular in the future, we give the possible like used file names. People just have to label it different. It'll minimize the overwriting someone else. That's always a possibility with mods anyway. You import another mod and it kind of uses the of another. But that's probably a year or two ahead. So we create some kind of plus Where is the function? Insert. Let's make this bigger. Make the logo bigger. It is going to be a math function. It's not. It's more like a computer science or oh. Actually learn more and thank you. E? Unique. Returns unique rows in. I think what we are also looking we're looking for Google spreadsheet. Hash of a cell text. This is the one. How can I come? Yeah, this is the one. Maybe there was already a function. I actually did not. Or the checksums. Some. HA. Tools scripted to the you write your own hash. Then use utilities compute digest. It's the cell. Yeah, it's doing the hash. So this is kind of PC input raw hash. Is this always number though? That is the problem. Because I'm trying to put in text. Digest computation. Okay, I think this could be it. But this suggestion has been inside the function. Let's take this shamelessly. Promise I'll do this. Open full screen. Sleep. And they also said add this jar. I don't know if I'm satisfied yet. Ask me next. Save the script after that. Then you save the script. this. Suddenly this turned into a saving project. Skills project was named. Now what happens here? They said it is a formula. All part of because we labeled this. How do you use this? They also say this 250 would have been nice for the original person come in here and edit his post based on this someone else. Also this. But it says if these utilities are already part of I see Google script. It's a app script. While referencing is so this is gonna pop up for me. When I do +5, does not. Should I refresh the page? Leave the page. So then what is the point? When I open this, will you even remember my code G run? Run the selected. Gonna fail because what is it running on? Up. Feels. It's as if I should sort of enable files this project to this spreadsheet. Then these functions could be accessible. That's my on for exporting. Will come in handy soon. With this time. How do we selfish? Calculate. Put your original message to be hashed in cell 8 up to 55 print. So this is the hash of this. Post round 64. Holy. Oh. Concatenate F1 to F8. This is doing. So did you wrote the whole algorithm in more or less 64 beats? Each round he's doing. Holy mackerel. Okay. This is what we are seeking, but so far writing that kills this thing should not deploy. Should you deploy? Man, we are entering a new territory here. This is kind of deployment type. Select type. An add-on. Description. Hashing. Change project. Kind of refused to go through. Seriously. Is this it? Change it? Oh, for fuck's sake, it's done. Can't deal with bullshit like that. Compute MD5. Why can't you have? It's the same answer from. Yeah, same answer. This looks like they just stole the content from Stack Overflow. Okay, compute. Base a complex number of let's Google spreadsheet define. Let's you find the MD5 your Google Drive's folder. Oh, that's what we need. Maybe, maybe, maybe someone already has some kind of calculator. Thank you, sir. Mesh algorithm, string text, generate text. Can you expose this to the function stuff? Instead of making because if we do this, well, I could be using something like this somewhere. Just copy it here. I mean, sure it's here. time for a break. I'll be back. Uh, some tea maybe. We'll continue with the hash calculation. Fun. I can't believe utility. Again, this utilities scripted. Yeah, we did. Yeah, but I was not able to expose this. Let's try to do sheet. Will take us back to this area. It actually remembers this. Where it, this stuff. Save it. So this is reassuring. But how do we expect this to back to the problem then? Um, Lunch is just to be done. I have to figure out the launch options. So I'm going to terminate the stream for the time being. We will continue with creating a ID function, turn unique enough names into really unique IDs so that model to Blender to Godot model asset flow can work seamlessly. So that will be the work in the later afternoon stream. So for the time being,